Hi, I'm Larry Brown, cake architect for Marybelle Cakery. Today we're going to talk about some of the things that you need to consider when you're choosing your wedding cake. A wedding cake is more than just dessert for your guests. A wedding cake should be the centerpiece for your reception. When your guests walk into that reception and see that cake, it should tell them that they are in store for no ordinary reception. Ideally, your cake should have a double wow factor. Your guests should say wow when they see the cake, and they should say wow again when they taste the cake. So your cake has to perform a lot of jobs at the reception. One of its jobs is to be a photo prop for the photographer and all your guests. When you're cutting that cake, that's when everyone's going to be snapping pictures. The cake needs to look good with you standing next to it. It needs to complement your gown. It needs to carry the theme and colors of your wedding. When you go in for your tasting to discuss your cake with the baker, you should take along color swatches from your wedding. You should know what flowers you're going to be using. You should have some idea of the theme of your wedding, and you should take a photo of your wedding gown. Oftentimes a baker can take the detail off the bodice of your gown and recreate that detail on the side of the cake. The color of the icing should complement your gown. If you're wearing an ivory gown, you can have ivory icing on your cake. If you have a white gown, you can have white icing. We have pale green cakes, we have light blue cakes, and pale pink and yellow cakes. Cakes can carry the colors and theme of your wedding. They can echo the colors of your bridesmaids' gowns. Let's take a look at some of the modern trends in cake design, starting at the top. We rarely see statues of brides and grooms on tops of cakes anymore. What most brides prefer are fresh flowers. Another alternative are their initials in sterling silver, a keepsake as well as a cake decoration. We also see tiaras on cake tops. A tiara can complement the tiara that the bride wears. Pearl tiaras or crystal tiaras can complement the detail on the bodice of a bride's gown. Another choice is handmade gum paste flowers on the top of a cake. These can be done in different colors to match the cake. Continuing on down, one of the things you're going to have to decide on is the detail on the side of the cake. There's any number of ways to finish off a cake, but modern cakes have gotten much simpler than cakes of even a few years ago. And the designs have gotten simpler to complement wedding gowns, which have also gotten simpler. This cake, for instance, has a leaf trim around the base of each layer. You can also choose a pearl trim or a shell pattern that you see at the base of these layers. This cake has satin ribbons around each layer, and the ribbons match the color of the bridesmaids' gowns, thus echoing the color theme of the wedding. Just as important as the cake is the table that the cake is sitting on, because the table becomes part of the presentation. You don't want a cake sitting on a big empty table. It looks like somebody was walking by and just sort of dropped it off there. The problem with the bigger tables is you have to lean too far in to cut the cake during the cutting ceremony, and it doesn't give you very good posture during the pictures. A smaller table lets you stand right up close to the cake and gives you much better photographs, with the cake acting as a photo prop for you and your fiancé. Another thing to consider is where your cake is going to be placed in the room. If the cake is in the center of the room, then we have what we call a 360-degree cake, and you have to worry about the flowers and the presentation of the cake from all sides. If a cake is sitting back in the corner or up against a wall, then you only have to decorate the table in front of the cake and on the sides, and you don't have to worry about the back so much. And let's not forget the table itself. The last thing to consider is the tablecloth and what that looks like. Some brides will supply their own tablecloth in a color that carries the theme and the colors of the wedding. Some brides will bring in tulle or muslin and then cloud it by crumpling it all up and creating a kind of ethereal, soft look. Another really easy way to decorate a table is to just take a big bag of flower petals and just scatter them on the table all around the cake. But anything that you can do helps bring the table into the cake as part of the presentation and makes the whole thing work better as a photo prop when everyone's snapping those photos. Well, I hope I've been able to help you know what to look for and what questions to ask when you go in for your cake tasting. Be sure and take along your fiancé and your family, because the cake tasting is the only part of wedding planning that the guys really get into. Oh, and another thing, be sure and ask your baker to leave a box for your caterer to put some cake away for you at the reception. Most brides don't have time to actually eat any cake at the reception because they're so busy. The grooms always manage to get cake somehow, but the brides don't. So have your caterer put a little cake away for you to enjoy for breakfast the next morning with coffee. Well, I'm Larry with Marybelle Cakery, Cake Architect. Happy cake hunting.